name is Tracy Brown, and I am one of the co-founders of the Women Writing Intentionally Collective. Today, we are joined by one of the contributing authors to our Wounded Women series, the beautiful Christine Frey. Christine, I would love for you to just introduce yourself to everybody and let them know a little bit about what you do and how you help people.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. My name's Christine Frey. I'm a shaman and a Reiki master teacher, and I primarily work with survivors of trauma. So I work with survivors of domestic violence, sex assault, incest, and it's wonderful to help teach people how to reclaim their personal power and to begin their transformative healing journey. And I believe the books are definitely a part of that.
Oh, I love that. You were actually one of the authors in Jenny's Quiet and Badass book that came out in September last year. And your story was just so moving, what you shared about your experiences with domestic violence and how that has inspired you in your career as well to reach out and help other women who are struggling with similar issues. So I think it's amazing that you are bringing all of that experience and that wisdom into the Wounded Women series in ways that are very practical and like heartfelt, and that a lot of women are going to be able to resonate with. So
Absolutely.
having written before with Jenny and Quiet and Badass, what was it about the Wounded Women series? I know you touched on this just a minute ago about how you feel like it's a natural extension of what you do, but what was it specifically that made you feel called to contribute not just to one title, but actually to all three books in the series?
When I co-authored The Quiet and Badass, I felt safe enough to really touch the domestic violence part of it, because that's the part, the 49 years that I processed and healed and moved through. And then after that, it opened up a lot of my other traumas. So I am an incest survivor and a sexual assault survivor. And that's one reason I really do what I do. And that's what these three books are going to be, is opening up the conversation and reducing the stigma and really just having people understand that they're not alone. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I love that. That was something that came up in one of the other interviews with one of the other authors, that feeling of not being alone and destigmatizing some of those issues. So I love that that was one of the things that called you to share in Wounded Women. And so just following on from that and diving a little bit deeper, because I feel like touching on that not being alone part really leads into, for me at least, but I'd love to hear from you, how you are hoping your chapters are going to help the readers of each of the books.
By opening the conversation. And when I work with my survivors, I always make sure that our stories are different, of course, but we have similarities. And to know that somebody can understand you and have the capacity to listen to you is huge. So by writing a book, I can only imagine a woman sitting outside somewhere quiet and reading this chapter and getting a sense of, I can do that, or I am so much more than I thought I was. And I dare to dream big. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yes, I love that idea. You said, you're echoing the words that Terry said last week about I'm more than I think I am. And I feel like this is such a powerful message to be sharing, and that it's actually a message that so many of us need to receive.
True. It is. And it's nice to hear it. And sometimes you have to hear things 6, 7, 10 times for it to finally click. So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think it's one of those things, especially as women, we do find it really hard to, you said women need to hear it, 5, 6, 7, 10 times before we actually hear it. And that is one of the things that as women, sometimes we really have trouble, I guess, taking and holding those things to be true about ourselves, because we're so often giving to other people or compromising our own needs to even placate other people or to be what other people are expecting of us.
That's true. It's true. A lot of women minimize their contributions, and they level down. They come down to somebody else's level so they don't create waves and don't cause trouble. And it's interesting because the average woman doesn't come into her own voice till about the age of 52, especially with sexual assault. So I'm thinking, you know what? This has got to get out there, because I'm hoping the younger women read it too, and we can really create such an impact. If a younger woman reads something and they can just move forward in her life in such a magnificent way, who knows what that ripple is going to create.
Yes, I love that. I love that you're talking about the ripple effect, but also that as women of a certain age, and you've just talked about with sexual trauma, that it's quite often in your early 50s that women feel like their voices come out. But I do think also, like, as a woman who's entered into her 40s, that for me, it is coming into our voices in a different way. And like you, I feel like this opportunity to speak our truths now and to tell these stories that we haven't felt safe to share. Or you said, don't make waves, right? That we have been encouraged to be silent, to keep these things inside, not to create controversy, not to upset the status quo. And like you just said then, wanting younger women to read these stories, to hear these messages, and to actually be able to take that on earlier than we did, and actually be able to make those changes and transformations earlier without having to go through the same journeys and the same struggles that we have.
Oh, exactly. Because who knows how that's going to impact families and friends, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the ripple effect, it's that we don't know what changes we're going to create and how that's going to influence. And I think it's very brave and very admirable for you to particularly be sharing such vulnerable topics, because I imagine, as you said, like, it brought up a lot when you shared in Quiet and Badass about your sexual trauma experiences. But giving voice to that actually then opened up new things for you. And I just wanted to really touch on that for a minute, what it is that you're hoping that you're going to get out of this experience of sharing your stories.
Because it was interesting as an afterthought about it. I felt so much more comfortable to open up about the DV. But the sex assault, nah, that's just dirty, and that's shame and it's guilt. And I was like, you know what? And then I tell all my clients, I say, if you die right now, what would your soul say in 5 minutes, right? Your soul would say, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And it just clicked one day. I'm like, why am I telling this to them and not doing it myself? So that's when I'm like, you know what? It's out there. So.
Yeah, that whole, walk the walk, talk the talk kind of.
Absolutely. And I'm on the board of Finding Our Voices out in Colorado Springs. It's for sexual assault survivors and allies. And I'm telling you, I have a big mouth because this has to get out there.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? I think we need women to be amplifying their voices. And I think we need to be speaking louder, particularly about these kinds of issues, and really bringing them to light. And as you said, reducing and destigmatizing the shame and the fear around speaking about these things, because that's how we end up internalizing and perpetuating the cycles of this kind of trauma. Because when we don't talk about it, when we make it feel dirty and shameful, that's when we keep people quiet. It's a measure of control.
Exactly.
And having a big mouth and speaking loudly about it is how we shine the light for others, and how you're shining the light for other women to release their shame and trauma.
Yeah, because shame and guilt are the heaviest burdens, and it's hard. And when we take that baggage off, it's empowering. And then it's kind of interesting. It's scary and it's exciting. Like, oh, who am I now? Because I got moving through this baggage. It's got to go. So you get to reinvent yourself, and that's exciting. That's amazing.
Oh, I love that. I just want to dive into a little bonus question before we move on. When because you said diving into this is exciting and you're like reinventing yourself as you start talking, what was it that actually incited you to step up and share your story about domestic violence in Quiet and Badass? What was it that gave you that confidence from being in the situations that you had been in and actually giving you that, I guess, that soul aligned yes to sharing your story about something that was so radically vulnerable?
I had 49 years of domestic violence, and I was in a marriage, my second marriage, for 20 years, and he died of late stage alcoholism. So when he died as one of my abusers, I was free. I was never free ever from the time I was born. And I was like, who am I? And that was scary and exciting. My kids were grown, and I wanted to do whatever women did, go to the shore and just be a single woman. And that's why I put it out there. But then all of a sudden I fell in love with his best friend, who he told me to marry before he died. And we came together, and it's interesting because it's both of our first healthy, safe relationship. And it's been fascinating. It's only been 6 years, and it's exciting, and I'm still letting it grow on me. But being in that relationship also showed me how healthy a relationship can be. It doesn't have to be dangerous and scary. And that was exciting. So between my late husband dying and then getting remarried, it's been amazing. And that's, and he makes me feel safe, just like you and Jenny make me feel safe. And that's why it's about moving forward and just getting this out there.
I love that. Had you always wanted to be a writer, or had you always
Yes.
wanted to share your story?
When I was in second grade, I wish this woman was still alive too. When I was in second grade, I used to write all the time, but I wrote the most stories for whatever. She had me stand up on a desk. And I remember her just clapping and parading and all, just being so excited about that. And I've never forgotten that moment. So I did save a lot of my stories, which is exciting. But yeah, I'll never forget that moment. I always wanted to be. But then when I was going through everything I was going through, I put it on the way legs. It just wasn't the time. So with having the freedom and being safe for the first time ever, that's when I started doing it. And I felt safe with Jenny at first. And then you're just awesome too. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you. So out of this whole entire journey, because this isn't just one book that you're writing for, it is a whole, we're going to spend the best part of the next year together writing each of the titles, because you're doing Betrayed, which is the first book, and then we're talking about Broken, and then we're diving into Burned. And over the process of writing, what is it that you are most excited about as part of this journey?
What I'm going to discover.
Because
it's interesting. Once you put pen to paper, who knows what flows? And that's what I'm looking forward to, is what I'm going to discover in a safe way. I'm in therapy, and I do take time outs, and I do take care of myself. And it's interesting, what is going to come up? I'm excited. I don't have an answer for you, really. That's very clear. I'm just excited.
So you're just excited for the journey in general.
Exactly. What's going to come up, what's going to come out, just like when I was with Jenny, when we hit that send button, when we got that book out there, I was like, holy cow, this is scary. This is going to be scary times 3. So that's really cool,
Yeah, but there's something about the scariness. Do you find that, having done it once before, that it's easier to say yes, and that fear is more of an exciting fear rather than an,
exactly.
oh my God, what have I done?
Exactly. It's an exciting fear. It's not even fear. It's exciting and a little scary, and who knows what's going to happen. So it is all positive.
Yes, I love that. And Lindsay and Jenny just reminded me that Lindsay mentioned yesterday as well that bit about the mysterious is exciting. You know what you think you're going to get out of the experience, what it is about the journey, but then leaving that room for space and grace and magic and mystery to come in and surprise us is another element of, it is where the magic is, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's empowering. Definitely.
Yes. Oh, I love it. So, Christine, if anybody resonates with your story or would like to find out more about your practice, especially if anyone has also been struggling with domestic violence or sexual trauma or anything like that, how can they get in touch with you online?
My website is Centerpoint Healing Services. So online, it's centerpointhealingservices.com. So, and I do a lot of virtual sessions. I do distance sessions by phone. And And I do a lot of in-person sessions. I have clients literally all around the world. So it's really nice that I can work with people in ways that help them feel better. Yeah. So all my information's on my website as well, my phone number.
Okay. So centerpointhealingservices.com.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Now, Jenny's got a bonus question for you. She says, Christine, what would you say to someone with a story that may be hard to tell, but knows that they want to help others by sharing it?
I really want that person to know that once they get moving through that, you have to feel it to heal it. Once you start writing and feeling it, and you move through that, you're going to feel so absolutely amazing. You're going to feel empowered and strong, more confident. Oh, you're going to feel so much more beautiful.
Oh, I love that. And I think that it is that feeling that we get, as we move through it. Like, it's the fear of telling the story that is scarier than actually telling the story, isn't it?
It is, because a lot of people are afraid of being believed, which is a common thread in all kinds of trauma. And that's why a safe container like you and Jenny have is really important. So they're heard and listened to and valued and not just respected or, judged or anything. That's huge.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that we felt really strongly about, was providing a safe container for all of our authors to come and share their stories, no matter how vulnerable or how how traumatic it might be. And I know that particularly with the women who've already stepped up, we've put in place some measures, as I've mentioned before, like with Talisha coming in and doing the embodiment and somatic movement classes and circles for everybody, but also having people like yourself and like some of our other authors who have actually experienced and come through and gone through these incredible experiences, but actually now use them as part of their practices, are also an amazing resource for the other authors as well, to help feel safe. So I think everybody is bringing their skills and their experiences to the table in ways where we can all come together and support and allow each other, as you were saying, and as Jenny mentioned before, allow us that safe space to feel it so that we can heal it ourselves as we go through the journey, but then so that we're also laying the foundation for the readers to also, in their own ways, as they're reading and they're sharing our stories and resonating with different pieces, that it is allowing them to actually to crack open a little bit and to start to feel it themselves and start that healing journey on their own.
Exactly, because so many people numb out. I mean, a lot of people are unconscious with their trauma and some are conscious. And they numb out for so many years. And then when they wake up with tiny little words, reading a word or hearing something, it is so powerful because you don't know what's on the other side. It's definitely going to be something brighter and better because you had the courage to step up and take care of yourself.
Yes.
And help others.
Oh, I love that. And I think it's important probably to touch on here that when we talk about feeling it to healing it isn't always puppies and rainbows, as Jenny has said before. It doesn't always feel good. In fact, when we're sharing our stories that make us feel vulnerable, it can feel really kind of awful.
It can be. And that's why I tell everybody, have resources. I give all my clients resources. Aftercare, have a therapist, and there's a lot of ways that I can help people ground and connect to themselves if they disassociate and things. It's really important to have those tools. And I always tell my clients, if you dip a toe into that thing and that's all you got and you back out, that's perfect. If you could jump in head first into that thing, it's perfect. It's about allowing yourself to be, because what I find a lot of people do is they think they have to heal 24/7. I said, girl, you can't leave your car running in the driveway for 24/7. Same thing with your body and your mind. You can't do that. So giving yourself some space and some time and taking care of yourself, spirit, mind, body, and emotions. That's huge.
Yeah. One step at a time, one day at a time, one toe at a time.
That's it. It's one toe's perfect. I mean, I've had that experience. I'm sure you have. It's human. We're human. That's what happens.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to acknowledge here, as you just said, sometimes we step in and then we have to take that time to integrate before we can take another step forward. And I love that we are giving each other that room to grow and do that. But I think it's really important for the readers to also be able to see and read that in our stories as well, so that they recognize, exactly like you said, you can't just have your car running in the driveway 24 hours a day.
Mhm.
You have to be able to, crack open, you feel a little bit of it, and then you have to take some time and just, pump the brakes a bit and just allow that to settle in our bodies.
That's true.
And
Learning other things, because a lot of people think it's just about talk therapy or journaling. No, it's art, it's music, it's dance, it's being quiet, it's listening to music. It's about finding what fits you, where you can engage all of your senses, see, hear, feel, know, and speak. You engage your senses, that's so helpful, because who knows what's going to come out when you do that.
I love that so
Mhm.
much. Oh, Christine, thank you so much for spending time with us today,
Thank you.
sharing a little bit about your story and especially about your practice. I can say from the bottom of my heart, I am so excited to read your stories and also to walk with you hand in hand over this next 12 months as we unfold and unpack all of these stories and these chapters and all of the healing that's going to be happening. And I just want to ask, what would you say to somebody who's maybe thinking about stepping up and writing in the Wounded Women series for any of the titles, but is maybe afraid to say yes?
I say do it. Like I said, I tell all my clients, if you die right now, what would your soul say in 5 minutes? You should have did it. You should have did that thing. Because when you do that, you're going to feel so proud of yourself. You will feel so amazing and authentic, because you're getting your story out there and that you are believed, you are valued. And that's really important.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And Jenny too has said she is so grateful to know you and that she
Oh, I love Jenny. She's so
brilliant.
cute.
She's amazing. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing your time and your expertise and your wisdom with us. And we are so thrilled to have you as one of our co-authors in the Wounded Women series. And yeah, I look forward to walking this path with you. So thank you for being with us today. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in and watched this. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Christine or Jenny and myself and let us know what it is that we can help you with.
Thank you.
Loads of love.